The alternation between wet and dry conditions is what makes playas such rich centers of biodiversity. The cycle is critical to sustaining the more than 350 plant species native to the wetlands, which nourish and provide cover for hundreds of bird species throughout their life cycles. Playa plants are highly sensitive to how much water they receive. Too much or too little, and the right plants might not grow and be available for birds when they need them. During the wet season, playas are brimming with spike rush, curly dock, and smartweed, and swimming with tiny life forms like water boatmen, snails, fairy shrimp, and other invertebrates, all of which nourish wetland-dependent birds. During dry times, playas store aquatic plant seeds, and new plants like sunflowers bloom, providing food for songbirds. Wildlife, like people, need a variety of foods in their diets to stay healthy, and functioning playas provide a varied menu. Because of the abundance of plants and invertebrates they produce, playas are one of the most important wetland types for birds in the region, hosting millions of ducks, geese, shorebirds, cranes, and grassland birds throughout the year. Wet playas are critical stopover points for migratory birds along the Central Flyway. Graceful sandhill cranes are often spotted on wet playas in the fall and spring. Waterfowl such as northern pintails, mallards, and Canada geese visit wet playas by the millions each year.
Playas are critically important to waterfowl throughout western North America, but as well as they provide habitats for birds that breed all the way from Hudson Bay in Canada to Alaska. These birds filter through the central and western part of the United States. Many of those depend upon playas to provide natural foods and forage and a place to rest during their migrations, as well as an area to overwinter. Some birds continue on through the playas, going into the Gulf Coast of Mexico and the western parts of the United States. And as a result, the playas become a critical link for waterfowl throughout North America and as well as South America, providing habitats for these birds. The survival of birds that use the playas is much higher than any other wintering areas, and so conservation of playas is critical to the conservation of continental waterfowl because of the valuable habitats that are found in this area, as well as the use of this area by such a high number of birds that will survive and go back to the breeding grounds in very good condition to reproduce and recruit young into the population.
Wet playas also host many shorebird species, such as American avocet and Wilson's phalarope on the wetland's shallow banks.
Playa lakes are critically important habitat for shorebirds and a lot of other kinds of wildlife in the high plains of western Kansas. They provide a shallow water habitat with broad shorelines and a rich food supply that most of these animals need. They produce fairy shrimp, tadpole shrimp, and clam shrimp that young birds and migrating birds need, especially during the spring and fall migrations. They're also ephemeral in nature, meaning that they come and go. That keeps the ecosystem clean and free of diseases like fowl cholera and avian botulism.
In dry playas throughout the year, these habitats and adjacent grasslands are home to dozens of prairie bird species, such as mountain plovers, long-billed curlews, and lark bunnings.
The Playa Lakes region not only includes a lot of playa lakes, but also short grass and mixed grass prairie. It's an extremely important region for grassland birds. We find species here that are found really nowhere else, and have observed substantial population declines, probably due to habitat conversion and habitat loss. When playas are dry and devoid of vegetation, they're providing habitat for species like mountain plover that like it open, bare ground for foraging. The surrounding prairie matrix is really important to playa health because it impacts how water moves to the playa. So it's important that we always think holistically in managing these systems.
Birds are just one aspect of the incredible wildlife diversity on the playas. Plains mammals, such as pronghorn, swift fox, jackrabbits, and prairie dogs, and reptiles and amphibians such as prairie rattlers and spadefoot toads can be found in and around playas.